After his handler loses his life in combat, an army dog is sent home where he must fight to avenge his guardian and protect his family. Today we'll be recapping the story of the 2015 movie, Max. In the war in Afghanistan, several dogs are used in missions ranging from sniffing out landmines to locating guns caches. Of the army dogs, a Belgian shepherd named Max is among the most skilled, and his instructor Kyle trusts him so much that he leaves him in charge of the squad, spotting potential traps and keeping everyone safe. When they arrive in a small village, the soldiers stay outside while Max goes in looking for guns, managing to sniff out a hiding place somewhere. With confirmation that there is something wrong, Kyle's squad enters the village and begins questioning the villagers, but as none of them seem willing to cooperate, the trainer gives the command for Max to enter the houses and start sniffing. Searching for guns, the Belgian shepherd enters one of the residences and is almost hit by a criminal, needing to be saved by Kyle, who manages to immobilize him. Safely away, Max continues sniffing until he notices something strange and sits down on the floor, signaling to the guardian that there is a hiding place underground. With that, Max's platoon manages to make one of the biggest seizures of the war and they get the rest of the week off, allowing Kyle to video call his family back in the States. Happy to see their son again, Ray and Pamela congratulate him and seem eager for him to come home, but unlike them, Justin seems jealous of his older brother and mocks the fact that he is going to war just to please his parents. Sensing the awkward atmosphere, Kyle says goodbye to everyone and ends the call when his superiors call him and best friend Tyler to report to urgent command. At the office, the captain says there are fewer guns in the report than in the photos and that it is not the first time this has happened, meaning someone is diverting the seized armaments. Already imagining that Tyler is responsible, Kyle takes advantage of a moment when they are alone in the next operation and goes to his friend to say that he will report him if he does not stop, but they are interrupted by Max, who signals the platoon to stop. Sensing that there is something strange, the Belgian shepherd advances alone without knowing that he is heading straight into an ambush. Thinking the military has advanced, a hidden criminal triggers a bomb that explodes at Max's feet, forcing Kyle to run into the smoke to save his dog while the rest of the platoon takes cover. Exposed, the young man calls for help and Tyler and the others shoot, but when they get closer, they find the trainer already lifeless. Stressed by the explosion, Max starts attacking everyone who approaches his guardian and Tyler almost shoots the dog, but the other soldiers manage to hold the dog and keep him safe. Unaware that his brother has passed away, Justin cracks the security code of a game and tries to sell the copy to his friend Chewie, but charges $200 more knowing that he will give it to Emilio, who copies and sells the games without sharing the profits. Knowing Emilio won't like it, Chewie tries to convince Justin to charge the normal price until the two are interrupted by Ray. After Chewie leaves, the man says he was waiting for Justin to work on the storage and they begin to argue, but are interrupted by two army officers who visit the house to report Kyle's perishment. At the funeral, family and friends are gathered at the church when Sergeant Reyes arrives with Max for a final farewell. Smelling Kyle again, the dog becomes quite agitated and starts pulling the leash wildly until he reaches the coffin, only becoming calmer after lying down in front of the body. After the ceremony, Reyes tries to take Max outside and the dog refuses to follow commands, but becomes calmer once he smells Justin, assimilating the young man to his trainer. Back at home, Justin starts going through his older brother's things when Ray shows up to tell him that he should use this time to mature, which ends up generating an argument that only ends when Pamela warns that the army will sacrifice Max. Wanting to save him, the family goes to the training base where Reyes explains that after Kyle's perishment, the Belgian shepherd has developed post-traumatic stress and refuses to obey other people, but is totally reassured by Justin's presence. Realizing this, the young man approaches and hands him a toy, but is almost bitten when he tries to pet Max. Still, Pamela decides that they will take him and Ray leaves him chained in the backyard for fear that the dog will bite someone, but this only serves to make the dog feel even more alone and howl all night, forcing Justin to get out of his bed and spend the night lying next to Max. The next morning, the young man is woken up by his mother and goes cycling to the forest where his friends have improvised a maneuvering circuit. There, Justin hands the pirated record to his best friend and talks about his fear of his father, but the conversation is soon interrupted by Carmen, Chewie's cousin. Wanting to ride, the young man calls Justin to ride and he replies that he has to go back to take care of Max, which makes Carmen curious to meet a real army dog. Realizing her interest, Justin makes an appointment and waits for her help to train Max. With her homemade treats, Carmen manages to get closer to the Belgian shepherd and explains how Justin should do to strengthen the bond with the dog, making small walks in circles that increase confidence to a point where Max can walk without the leash. From the window, Pamela sees the progress Justin has made and goes out to the backyard to call everyone for dinner, but Chewie is too afraid of Rey and refuses the invitation, leaving his cousin completely alone. During the meal, Pamela remembers Kyle and the others are forced to calm her down until they are interrupted by Tyler, who has come to pay his respects to the family. Curious, Rey asks why he's back early and the former Marine says he received a medical discharge after shrapnel lodged in his spine, but Carmen finds it odd and asks why he doesn't look like he's in pain, forcing Tyler to come up with some excuse. To change the subject, Pamela says she has someone she'd like to see him again and takes the young man to the back, but unlike what she imagined, Max gets extremely aggressive and advances toward Tyler, forcing Justin and Carmen to step in front to calm the angry dog down. The next morning, Justin goes for a walk with Max and decides to give him a vote of confidence, letting go of the leash so that the dog follows him to the trail in the woods. The next morning, Tyler goes to Rey's storage to ask for a job and the veteran says he will only do it if he tells him how Kyle perished. But for some reason, instead of telling the truth, Tyler makes up a story and blames Max, saying that the dog got desperate in the middle of the shooting and Kyle ran to help him. As if that wasn't enough, the man goes on to say that Max attacked Kyle and made him drop the gun, leaving him totally exposed for the criminals to take his life. Influenced by Tyler's story, Rey returns home during the night and goes straight to the new cage where Max is, opening it and ordering the dog to the car. Realizing his intentions, the Belgian Shepherd refuses to leave and the veteran draws his pistol, but luckily Justin notices the move and manages to interrupt his father before anything serious happens. Confused, the young man asks why he's doing this and Rey tells him the story he heard from Tyler, but Justin doesn't believe him and argues that Kyle would never entrust the lives of his companions to an uncontrolled dog, which manages to convince Rey to give the dog one last chance. Intrigued by Tyler's story, Justin decides to go to Sergeant Reyes and tell him about the story he heard, asking if Max could have attacked Kyle. Since he doesn't have this information, the sergeant checks the computer records and realizes that Tyler was discharged 5 months earlier than expected by an administrative process, which confirms that the story of the shrapnel in his back was a lie. Curious, Reyes says he'll investigate what happened and hands Justin a CD, claiming he should keep it a secret, but the first thing the young man does is take the disc to Carmen so they can watch it together. There, Justin sees recordings of Max when he was still a puppy and was being trained by Reyes and Kyle, and is thrilled to see his brother again. With that, Justin sees how stable the Belgian Shepherd was and comes to the conclusion that Tyler is a liar, but before he can confront him, the young man is visited by Emilio who complains about him charging $200 more for the game. Suddenly, Emilio gets a call and ends up letting slip that he's talking to Tyler, which piques Justin's curiosity. In a hurry, Emilio says he needs a new game that he's releasing next week and says he'll forgive the young man if he can deliver it on time, but Justin isn't intimidated and asks for payment up front, making Emilio take the money out of his pocket and give it to him. After the young man leaves, Justin gets on his bike and hands Max the notes to sniff, following the dog as he tracks down Emilio. So they take a trail through the forest until they reach an isolated area where Tyler and Emilio are trading the stolen guns with other criminals. Because of his training, Max becomes agitated at the sight of the weaponry and ends up drawing the attention of the Rottweilers that are with the bad guys, which makes Tyler suspicious that there is someone watching. With the deal in jeopardy, the buyers set the transaction for the next morning and leave, allowing Stack to send his dogs after the stalker in the bush. In a panic, Justin tries to flee through the forest and ends up being caught by the Rottweilers, forcing Max to face both dogs at the same time to defend his guardian. Even alone, the Belgian Shepherd manages to hurt the paw of one of the doggies and knocks the other down a hill, allowing Justin to escape safely, but the young man ends up hitting a branch and overturning the bike that is totally destroyed. A few meters away, Tyler and his cronies find the injured Rottweilers and Stack approaches to see if they are okay, but ends up having his hand bitten by his own dog. Needing to escape on foot, Justin runs through the woods until he reaches the highway where he and Max start hitchhiking, getting help from a lady who takes them straight to the vet. After the treatment, Chewie and Carmen arrive to help their friend and hand over all the money they have to pay for the treatment, but as they still do not have enough money, Justin decides to ask his father for help. Thinking it's a bad idea, Chewie says he can't do that and that if Rey goes after Emilio, they'll probably all be eliminated by the cartel. With no alternatives, the young man decides to stay put and takes Max to the cage in the backyard, but when he gets inside the house, he finds Tyler talking to his mother. Confused, the young man asks what is going on and Stack, who is posing as a police officer, tells him that he was drinking during his break when he and his dog were attacked by Max, showing the bruise on his hand as a way to prove what he says. Finally, Stack shows Justin's bike totally destroyed and says he will drop the charges if Max is sacrificed, which leaves Pamela with no choice. Pretending to want to comfort Justin, Tyler calls him in to talk alone and tells him that if he tells anyone about what he just saw, the negotiation will go wrong and Stack will come straight to his house to get revenge, eliminating both Ray and Pamela. Afraid of losing his parents, Justin eventually agrees to keep quiet and takes Max to the animal control vehicle, only to watch as his dog is taken away. Without his dog, Justin starts to wash out when he gets a call from Reyes wanting to tell him what he found out about Tyler, but the young man refuses to listen and tells him he should never call his parents again, threatening to tell his superiors that he got top secret stuff from the sergeant. In the kennel, Max is being taken to the cage when he starts to struggle and manages to get loose from the camber, knocking down the guards and running to the exit of the building. At home, Ray realizes that the jurisdiction of the bitten policeman is extremely far and decides to talk to his son to better understand what happened. However, instead of telling the truth, Justin continues to keep it a secret and refuses to talk to his father. Thinking that Tyler knows something, Ray decides to go to the storage and finds the young man along with Stack picking up some crates inside the shed, signaling that he was hiding the guns in Ray's storage all this time. Curious, the man asks what's inside and Tyler tries to throw him off, but Ray keeps insisting and ends up being surrendered by Emilio. At home, Pamela calls Ray to find out what happened and receives a message saying that he will spend the night out, but as this has never happened before, the woman is extremely worried and decides to ask Justin's help to find his father. Suddenly, they hear barking outside and go out to find Max again, discovering that luckily he has managed to escape. After the emotional reunion, Justin goes to Chewy's house and tells him about what happened to Ray, asking for his friend's help in locating him. Together, the three go to storage and Justin manages to find his father's holster, handing it over to Max to sniff around the trail until he finds it. Following the scent, the dog runs through town until he finds Ray's truck abandoned in the middle of nowhere. As he is still smelling it, Max catches the teenagers' attention and continues guiding them to a rather choppy stream. With no options, the teenagers decide to cross the water and carry their bikes to the other side, but Justin ends up stepping in a hole and sinks halfway, forcing Chewy to drop his bike to help his friend. After Justin and the bike are safe, Max continues to guide the trio to the top of a rock where they get to see Ray along with the bad guys. Finding it dangerous, Carmen suggests they go to the highway for help, but Justin refuses to leave his father alone and recommends she try to call the police while he and Chewy try to do something to help. After the girl leaves, one of them's phone starts ringing and ends up drawing the attention of the Rottweiler just below, alerting Tyler and the others that someone is watching. Wanting to find out what it is, Stack sends the dog ahead and keeps watch while Tyler and Emilio go behind following the dog's barks. At the top of the hill, the Rottweiler meets the young men and Max, who is already ready for revenge, jumping on the evil dog to defend his owner. But this time the Belgian Shepherd is at a disadvantage and Justin needs to help him by hitting a bicycle on the dog. Wanting to take the danger away, Max runs in another direction and manages to knock the Rottweiler off its feet, which rolls to the edge of a waterfall. From the top, Justin and Chewy watch the fight between the dogs when they notice the bandits approaching. Scared, they hide and just watch as Tyler tries to hit Max, who has managed to knock the Rottweiler into the river. Noticing the shots, the Belgian Shepherd runs through the trees and Emilio advances to try to surround him, but notices Chewy behind the trees and approaches him to ask who he is with. While his friend distracts the arms dealer, Justin gets on his bike and pedals rapidly at him, running over Emilio and knocking him down the hill until he breaks his leg on a rock. Downstairs, Stack ends up distracted by his partner's cries of pain and Ray takes the opportunity to get out of the car and disarm him, knocking out the criminal with the help of Max, who arrives to save him. In the trees, Tyler starts looking for Emilio when he sees Justin pedaling away, forcing him to abandon his partner to try to catch up with the young man. With the bike, Justin goes to his father and warns him that Tyler is coming, which gives Ray the idea to use Stack's revolver to puncture the tires and hit the engine, damaging the vehicle and delaying his pursuers. With one bullet left, they continue walking to reach the highway, but Ray starts to get tired and needs to take a break to replenish his energy. Wanting to keep his father safe, Justin grabs his bike and starts pedaling in the opposite direction along with Max, drawing the attention of Stack, who starts chasing him. When the young man ride into the trees, Tyler gets out of the car and asks his partner to go after Ray, but while he's driving, Stack is exposed to the veteran, who fires his last shot into the windshield, causing the criminal to lose control of the vehicle and fall down the hill. In the trees, Justin keeps pedaling and jumps through a crack in the rocks to reach the train track, but ends up hurting his leg and Max almost falls into the abyss, getting stuck at the bottom of the ravine. Even with a limp, Justin keeps running until Stack's car explodes, heating up the guns and projectiles in the trunk and causing them to fire non-stop, even launching guided missiles into the forest. Unluckily for him, one of the rockets hits the rails in front of Justin, who can't continue to run away, getting trapped against Tyler, but Max manages to get out of the ravine and comes running super rapidly at the criminal, jumping on his chest and falling along with him through the hole in the rails. With both of them out cold, Carmen finally arrives with the cops and the whole situation is finally resolved, allowing Justin to go to Kyle's headstone along with Max to say goodbye one last time. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.